Hello, viewers. Welcome to Life and More Conversations. Today, we are joined by Ms. Prakriti Saxena Poddar, the Global Head of Mental Health and Wellbeing at Roundglass, and a leading voice in mental health, digital well-being, and systems innovations. With over 25 years of experience, she has worked at the intersection of clinical care, technology, public health, and workplace well-being. Welcome to the show, Prakriti.
Thank you so much, Rajkumari.
So tell me, what first inspired you to enter the field of mental health?
So
How
for
did
me,
you
it
choose it?
wasn't. Can you hear me? Yeah. For me, it wasn't really a planned journey. It kind of happened in a manner where it just came to me. Because growing up, I was very much influenced by my grandmother, who was a faith healer. So she used to actually like practice praying on people and healing them. And I was exposed to this idea from a very young age and was not limited by the body, but kind of like understood that the mind, spirit, relationships, and a person's sense of purpose is all connected because I kind of grew up like that. And then as a teenager, and a young adult, I found myself naturally drawn to helping people. And that's how I started to work on this. And I went to York University in Toronto. And before that, also, I joined a healing circle. It was a meditation circle. I was very curious about these kind of aspects of like, how do you keep the mind, uh, very calm so that you can deal with life and life circumstances. And then I studied psychology in university, but surprisingly, it was quite funny because I dropped out of psychology because it was very limiting in the US. I studied in Canada, of course, but the books were pretty much insular and very focused on the individual and the individual sense of being. Whereas, India and where I come from, it's a family system. It's a community system. So it's very different from what I was studying. And I thought they're going to limit my mind, so I better not continue that. So I actually took
Okay.
economics and minor in psychology, but I really decided that I will continue to study my economics, but I would learn different practices of mental health and different practices that would help people. So I studied CBT. I was certified in CBT, REBT, which are all counseling modalities. I became a doctor in clinical hypnotherapy, became a practitioner of neurolinguistic programming, I became like a transpersonal therapist, became an EEG biofeedback practitioner, understood how to kind of use the skills of brain training using EEG. So I developed like an entire suite of things and decided that when I start working with people, even though I knew how, faith healing, that I would work with these aspects and also then guide people into meditation and guide people into different practices. And so I opened a clinic
Okay.
in Bombay. It was like a very boutique sort of mental health clinic where I kind of fused this, all my practices. I kind of pursued these sort of multiple disciplines and brought them together. And I think that was the most profound awakening of my mental health journey, and really helped people overcome sort of their anxiety, traumas, and other mental health challenges. I had psychiatrists that I brought on board. I had counselors. I had RCI registered counselors. I had therapists. And when a person came in, we really looked at the whole body approach. So it was always like, okay, how do we help people? Because it's not just what's happening in the mind. It's what do you feed your body. It's what nutrition are you putting. Are you feeding yourself not only with food but with thoughts, with friendships, and how do you set boundaries for yourself? So a lot of that sort of came about. And with this whole creation, I decided that I needed to help people who couldn't afford this as well. So Podar Foundation, which was a foundation that I was running in India, it was a family foundation. I focused that on mental health so that I could do mental health awareness and mental health advocacy, because the whole idea was that it shouldn't be only for people who could afford it. And so we've started developing peer-to-peer support and identifying sort of red flags and, the kind of things that are very important for people who don't have access. So we built that entire system and actually taught a lot of ASHA workers as well how to do the work so that they could be the first line officers for people who were suffering.
So you're not just a psychologist. You were also, what I gather, is what we call here a spiritual healer.
I don't like to use that terminology, but I think I started off as a spiritual healer. In fact, I do a lot of other things like tarot card reading, and I'm
No,
intuitive also. I'm very intuitive, so I
Mhm.
do that, but I don't claim that because I actually like to, if I get a, if I get some kind of intuition, I keep it in my mind, and I still get people to come to that. So it actually guides me, but I always want to give the ownership to the person who's come for the therapy, because in their life, that's what they miss. They miss that agency. They miss that capability of understanding that they have the control to take care of themselves. So I always like to kind of empower them versus like saying, I know what you have and here's how you fix it. You know what I'm saying?
No, why I'm saying spiritual healer is because you are working on the soul and the mind, while
100%.
pure psychology will only work on mind. They
Yes.
they only talk about mind.
Yes.
It's the other kind of healing that you're doing, which also talks about the soul, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, so I use hypnotherapy in my
Uh,
practice, and past life
yeah.
regression, and age regression, and spiritual hypnosis. I do all of that also
Hmm,
as
hmm,
part of my
hmm.
practice.
Okay. So looking back, like to the 25 years of your experience, what have you seen? Like, have you seen, say, a significant shift in how people uh, understand themselves and how they are open about talking about things that they are feeling they have
Yeah.
issues with?
I think people have become more exposed to other people talking about mental health. I think people still
Hmm,
shy away from acknowledging their own. Not only that, I
hmm,
also have found in my practice that a lot of parents blame themselves
hmm,
for their children's mental health
okay.
issues. And that limits them from talking about it as well. There's a lot of shame still there. So I find that's, unfortunately, the bias is still there, the stigma is still there. But yes, people are more open to it online. They can talk about it in a
Hmm,
way where they're not being judged and they don't want to be recognized. So being anonymous on an online platform, they find that much more convenient. So I see a lot of that happening. But I think that
hmm,
people have also started using AI as a tool to be able to understand themselves. So I feel like people want to understand themselves, but I think there's greater awareness in companies as well, because they're really always talking about sort of burnout and stress and anxiety at the workplace. There's a lot of the ecosystem is kind of taking it a little more seriously, but
okay.
I don't think people have really connected to understanding that if they're getting irritable, if they're getting short tempered, if they're getting very upset about small things, that they don't recognize that that could be a sign of depression. They think that that person is just in a bad mood, right? Or that person is just like, in the Hindi word kharoos, right?
Hmm,
But I mean,
hmm,
they don't understand that that is also a sign of depression, because for them the context of depression is somebody who can't get out of bed, somebody who's very morose, and somebody who's very quiet. But that isn't the truth, right? It actually showcases itself in very different ways. And so people don't have the depth of understanding of it. And so I understand that people can talk about, conversations around this, but I don't think crisis intervention has improved. I don't think that pathology to potential and sort of treating individuals without being isolated has improved. So I feel like people are still like talking about mental health as one aspect, where they don't understand the holistic well-being aspect, right? Because you cannot
hmm,
treat, if you cannot get out of bed, I cannot tell you, hey, you know what, you'll feel better if you go for a jog. I cannot do that, because you're not going to be able to do that. So the treatment and the spectrum of treatment cannot just be medicine. We have to meet them where they are and sort of build them up. And I think that, yes, of course, there's more openness. People are talking about it more. You see celebrities talking about it. That's really helped the conversations. But
hmm.
I do think there's a long way to go to actually embed that transformation in one's cultural upbringing and the nuances. I think that's what I see.
You just said that many parents blame themselves for their kids' mental health issues. So, how do you allay their fears? How do you approach such a family or a person or patient or parents? How do you, what do you do for them?
So so that would be my advocacy platform, not my therapy
Okay.
platform. Because for therapy, you
Hmm.
have to come to me, then we can help you. But if you're not
Hmm.
coming to me, then awareness and advocacy is what really helps, because the idea is that people need to become aware. And when you become
Hmm.
also, once we teach people awareness, and I think the system has to change in as much as parents should be when they go to schools, when they go to kindergarten, like a lot of these things should be talked about there. And not in a stigmatized manner like, oh, your child needs occupational therapy because he can't do that, or your child has learning disability, and so therefore, not in that condescending manner, but I think in a more acceptable form. I think because tone of voice matters, what you're saying matters. And mental health is something that cannot be diagnosed before the age of 7, right? So when you see challenges as a parent, you're seeing challenges, etc., then you can deal with it. But what people don't want to talk about is, like, say for example, their child has got involved in drug addiction, right? And then there's like drug related psychosis. They blame themselves. The child has got addicted to social media or to their telephone. This is an addiction, the same kind of addiction. Dopamine levels rise, etc. Same kind of addiction as your drugs of any kind, whether CBD or anything, any drug. It's the same kind of thing. It gives you the same kind of boost. It gives you the same kind of dopamine. It gives you the same kind of down after that. It gives you the same spiral. So when parents accept it, it's easier for us to converse with them, and it's easier for us to give them the tools to be able to help their children, because otherwise it's not possible. Like, if you are in denial and you're hiding it, it's not possible to even come to treatment. That's why I was saying that would be
Yeah.
advocacy and awareness building. And then you have the treatment. Treatment is when your parent is involved and you are on the same page and there's no blame and shame involved. Then you can work on building something. So that's what I would think, that whole ecosystem, schools were supporting it. Even if there were parenting courses that were supporting it, you got to understand this. I mean, I remember I used to work with Singapore School in Bombay, and I had done this thing with the grade. I think they were grade 4 or 5. I think they were grade 4 or 5, like very young children. And we were talking. I was only working on like being able to communicate things that are happening with you. Right? So that's the first thing, naming and labeling. Right? When we're talking about mental health, I want to teach mental health, it will be name and label. What is it that you're feeling? What is happening in that feeling? And how do you expand that? Right? So understanding that. People were unable to even express the words that meant their emotion level. So you only have sad, bad, happy, unhappy. They don't have the nuances. So the idea was, okay, let's teach them the nuances of like the ABC of mental health means understand the emotions. Once you understand the emotions, you can converse about it. But if the child understands, I remember a child telling me, I can say these emotions, my parents don't understand these emotions. They don't know what it means. So it has to be on the same page. In fact, now I work with Roundglass, and we are always building. It's a mental. It's a well-being, holistic well-being app, but it really takes all the principles of mental health and well-being. I never build it in isolation. If I'm building content for the children, I'm building content for the parents to understand how to use that content with the children. I'm building content for the teachers for them to understand how to use it with the children, because the children are the central force of like what society is going to become like. And around that are these gatekeepers who must be taught how to elevate the child. In fact, I'm writing a book. It's in editing right now, but it really is your life, your call. And it's all about like, how do we empower children to understand that they have a voice no matter what age they are. It shouldn't be like, "Acha, tum bade chote ho, abhi baat mat karna." Kyun? Like, I mean, that person who is small has something they're going through. And you must listen to them, because, abuse happens because children are zipped up. Lots of, whether sexual abuse, physical violence, and manipulation and bullying, it happens because they're silent. If they speak about it, it automatically takes away about 80% of what's happening to them, because they're able to stand up for themselves. And it's important to give them that, but only if parents support it, because if their community is not supporting it, how will they find the strength in that little body of theirs and that little mind of theirs and in the few years that they've had? Not possible.
You just so how much of your work involves advocacy and how much of work involves therapy?
So now my work, because I work at Roundglass as the global head of mental health and well-being, my work revolves around building a digital tool to help people with holistic well-being. And it's basically
Okay.
daily skill development in the space of mental health, right? So we teach you, it's preventive. So I'm not doing curative anymore, except when I do my personal practice, but it's preventive. And so the whole idea is, how do you build the skills so you can recognize what's happening to you. You can set boundaries for yourself. You become more responsive versus reactive. So we teach you these skills, and we teach you we give you goals. So I create goals that people can access, whether it's reduce stress and anxiety, sleep better, build healthy habits, various types of like move better. All these aspects come about, right? So there are 8 goals and people can pick the goals, because if you have an outcome, then you're able to stick with the lesson. So my outcome is to
Yeah.
pass grade 10 history. I will study the lesson
Mm,
of grade 10 history to pass that.
mm,
So it's the same
mm,
thing that I'm doing. I'm building content. I'm building practices. Building habit change. So got psychology layer. I've got a behavioral psychology layer, and I basically take them through day by day journey of how to build the skill. Because I feel like it's very important to use technology to help them support
mm,
themselves. So a preventative is the best way to be able to give them the skills. Now, like I
mm,
said, I do it for K to 12, means from kindergarten onwards,
mm,
all the way
mm,
to like the workplace, all the way to end of life. So it's the entire spectrum, because even the elderly get depressed, right? And there's a lot of
mm,
abuse with the elderly. So I don't want to leave anybody out. So we build it for everybody. And really, it's very simple. You learn breath work, you learn meditation, you learn mindfulness practices, you learn practices of what is good nutrition and what are things that you can eat to support your mental health. So it's almost like food for mood. We build, I mean, because I have a background in EEG biofeedback, I've actually built music also. So music with frequencies, binaural beats, making sure that people can actually just hear music and transform the way in which their brain is active, right? Because music is like something that, first of all, I've never heard of anybody saying they don't like music. It's not possible. Everybody loves music. They might like different genres
mm.
of music, but everybody loves music,
Yeah.
right? And music without lyrics is a universal language, right?
Mm,
I mean, in our heritage, it's all
mm,
Nad Yoga, which is sound healing, right? Nad Yoga is basically the yoga of sound. And so I've taken that entire concept, which is, yes, it's Nad Yoga, it's using sound, using vibration, using these various tools that we already have been given and provided, and turning that into modern day approaches. And so so
mm,
that's what my app really does. It pulls all of these things together and gives you a very beautiful tool to
mm,
take your life every day. It gives you morning, it gives you something in the afternoon, gives you something in the evening. I keep it very short because people are losing their attention span, with what's happening with social media, right? Like people become short,
mm,
short, short. I want to learn quick bites. I mean, my conversation may be too long for some people. They might like just jump off because it is too long. So things like that,
mm.
like it's very encouraging, because I also realize, having built that it doesn't matter what I'm giving you. मैं आपको ये दे सकती हूँ, but are you going to come to the water to drink it? Are you going to involve yourself in that daily practice? Everybody knows going to the gym is good, but do they go every day? They'll go, they'll fall
Mm,
off, they'll go, they'll fall off. Everybody knows what is good
mm.
for them. Preaching, everybody can do, but practice, hardly
Yeah.
anybody does, you know?
So when we talk about like mental health crisis, has the percentage of people, the affected people, increased over the years, or is it that now people are more aware, so we're seeing more numbers?
I think it's both. I actually think
Mm,
that the human development, which
mm,
requires connection, has decreased. So when human development that
okay.
requires connection decreases, there are going to be more mental health challenges, right? We're more remote.
Mm,
We're talking to each other over a screen. Children are not connecting with each other. They're playing games. There is a lot of unfortunate circumstances that have taken place, that people are not connecting with each other. They've lost the capability to connect. So that cannot be a good thing, right? And so therefore you see people not able to deal with a lot of life, because they don't go out. Like, you see a lot more anxiety, you see a lot more catatonic people, you see a lot more people in stress, you see a lot more people unable to deal with things. I mean, when I look at like the youth, I'm surprised at the kind of uh try to use the right word for it, they become very sensitive also, because they're not exposed to everyday challenges. They're very sensitive. And now I'm in the US,
mm,
so it's not like I'm in India where
mm,
there are communities and family all around and everybody is there and you get to see good, bad, ugly, like all of it together, and you get to process it and you get to work through it and you have to kind of stay involved in it. Like it's a must. It's very individualistic, right? So even children
mm,
are left to their own devices, right? So it's very
mm,
it's a little bit different. So I think that there are different, I definitely see a rise in mental health issues because people are more open to talking about it and coming to a therapist. But you have to recognize, I don't know if you know this, but we don't have enough therapists. There are like 3,000 to 4,000
mm,
RCI registered therapists even in India for a population of 1.4 billion.
mm,
Like, I mean, I don't think that, we do not have the people to serve the mental health crisis. There is a mental
mm,
health crisis. And that's why I believe in preventive, because there is a mental health crisis. Every workplace has people like burning out and crashing out. I mean, we've had suicides because of work related issues that people have. Like lots of different things are
mm,
happening. I mean, it's not safe. Plus, you see that people are also so disenfranchised that society is not that safe anymore. You see the economic divide becoming greater. All these things impact mental health, right? Now, if I'm on
mm,
social media and I'm looking at everybody else like having a great life, and like, I feel very limited in my approach, or my living experience is juxtaposed against theirs. And if my living experience is juxtaposed against theirs, I don't feel like I'm living. Right. So you see all the paradigms come up, right? Like usually it was like, oh, you watch a movie, you see that, you know it's a movie, you're done. But you see this every day. You see edited versions of people's lives every day, and you believe that is real. And it's building a lot of discontentment. And women are, I shouldn't say this, but women see it, or women are involved in social media a lot more than men. So men at the workplace, women at the workplace too, but women more, even when they come back home, because they're still on social media. They're still like absorbing this culture of like what's happening and what can I learn, what can I see, what can I do. Now the point is this: we have the capability to eat junk food or eat healthy food. So the social media is not bad, but you need to set your guardrails and say, okay, this is what's good, this is not working for me, etc. You need to do that, right? So you can't always be like in comparison mode, because the body and the mind are connected. You're going to feel miserable about what you see. You're receiving input. That input has to become an output, right? So what do you do? I think that it's a lot of different things are coming together, but it's not really creating a safe environment or a psychologically safe environment for people. So therefore, you'll see a lot more emotional discontentment. Maybe not as much. Maybe I don't have the stats for has ADHD become higher, or has bipolar disorder become higher. But I do know that emotional discontent has become higher. People, and by the way, emotional discontent leads to hopelessness, which leads to suicide. So it is actually life threatening. It is life threatening. So we can't say, oh no, only a
mm,
chemical imbalance is mental health and the rest of it is not. No, emotional imbalances
mm,
cause death. So it's all connected. So we need to take both seriously. And honestly, I really feel that governments should do things about it. China doesn't allow children on social media. It's cut it off completely. You cannot be on social media post 8 o'clock. There are things that the government can put in place so that parents don't have to fight their children every day. I had a case once in India where this mother comes to me. She goes, every time I take the phone away from my son, he talks to me about the fact that he's going to die by suicide.
oh,
What can I do? And she was from the chawl. She is not from some like elaborate family there, where they can afford phones. She's like, he takes my money. I
mm,
was probably working in somebody's home. She bought a phone. He takes the phone. He takes her money to make sure he's buying things on the phone, because children see other children doing it and they can't understand why they should not. And
mm,
that becomes a cycle again. But this is like, I mean, it's unprecedented. The kind of issues that are coming up is unprecedented. I would say it's gone up for sure. I mean, that's why we teach it in schools. That we've connected with schools here, where we teach it in schools. We give them this app, we give them the skills, we give them the lessons so that they can start, at least understanding what is positive influence in their life. Start with that, and then we work on the skills to help yourself.
mm. So social media is a big contributor to that.
I think technology, like I said, was neither good nor bad, but but it's the most powerful tool that's been ever created, right?
Mm,
But the impact
mm,
depends on how we use it. So I might use it
mm,
for good because I'm not interested in like scrolling or doom scrolling or any of that. But like, look at the kind of news that you have, like the news that you are like involved in every day. I
mm,
honestly, I say this like with complete like embarrassment. I do not look at the news. I cannot. I have to protect my mental health. I will not.
mm,
If there's anything I need to learn, I know I have certain friends that actually do focus on the news, and I'm like, just give me the sound bites of what is important to me. I do not need to hear bad news. I already know. मगर मुझे नहीं सुनना
Hmm.
क्योंकि मुझे impact हो जाता है. Like I do not
Hmm.
watch news. I do not like watching things that are going to be upsetting. Even some movies, I mean, like I don't want to talk about the movies, but like there are some movies that are like extremely violent, which we should not be watching. It desensitizes
Hmm.
people. But like, who's going to control all this? So not just social media, it's everything you're exposed to, right? But
Hmm.
you have to take control because you cannot stop anybody else from creating.
Hmm.
Content creators are a dime a
Hmm.
dozen. You cannot stop them. You can only
Hmm.
protect yourself by doing something, by being aware, by understanding how you're responding to what's happening or how you're reacting to what's happening, and then limiting your exposure. But I also think social media, etc., is good if you're doing it well because you can get like a good teacher, a good guide
Hmm.
across a platform because you've selected the right people. So that's what curation means, right? Curate what's working
Hmm.
for you. Don't go where the curation is not positive. Go where positive curation is happening. So if you're learning something, yeah, great. If you're not learning something and you're only doom scrolling, please don't. It's very simple. You're the only one who can
Hmm.
stop it.
Hmm.
I mean, I have 3 children. I cannot stop them from doing anything. So I have to just educate them. And then I'll be like,
Hmm.
good, bad, not good. No, you cannot be on like TikTok. You cannot be on this. I give them some certain rules. And then I'll like time their phone. Two are very big, so I can't do that to them because they're like 20 and 18. They'll be like, oh, please get out, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, this one is still like 13, going on 14. So her phone is limited.
Hmm.
Like, it goes off at a
Hmm.
certain time. You can't access
Hmm.
anything. And she can grumble as much as she wants. I'm like, TV dekh lo. उसमें तो पता है ना कार्टून
Hmm.
देखोगे आप. I'm fine.
Hmm.
It's hard to pick my battles too as a parent.
Hmm. So that means it begins with the self, and everything begins at
Everything
home.
that ends with a self. Nobody can give
Hmm.
you happiness. You have to find your
Ah.
own. Nobody should be able to
Hmm.
give you sorrow. And if somebody does give
Hmm.
you sorrow, you're allowing it. That's the agency that we're
Hmm.
talking about. How do you stop that?
Yeah.
Right? How do you
Hmm.
set boundaries?
Hmm.
That's why the boundary conversation I had. Because
Hmm.
you're the only
Hmm.
person. You come alone, you die alone. So in this aspect of living, you need to take accountability for everything that's happening to you. It's a lot of hard work.
Hmm.
I mean, that is the hardest thing to take accountability. Blame is very easy. We all do it. So
Hmm.
easy.
Hmm.
But when you really want to be embedded in well-being, you've got to take
Hmm.
accountability for every single decision that you make. And it's not easy because you'll
Hmm.
never make the right
Hmm.
decisions always,
Hmm. Hmm.
You'll never be in the right situations always. So, I mean, you learn from mistakes, but then you take it apart, you think about it, and you understand that that may have been a mistake, and you learn from it, dissect it, think about it, then build some tools to support yourself so that you don't do it again. But if you continue to do the same mistake again and again, then you're not learning. It's because you're not actually using it as a project to think about, okay, what's going wrong here? And that is why therapy also helps because that's where you can go to a therapist and say, okay, I'm always in the same cycle. I don't know what to do about it. I'm emotionally exhausted, but my sleep is disrupted. I have decision fatigue. I have distraction. I have all these things that are contributing to the illness, but I don't know what is causing it. Understandable. Because
Hmm.
most people have not done that inner work. And that's why you
Hmm.
come to a therapist. So, like I
Hmm.
said, you cannot do therapy over social media, but you can
Hmm.
actually do therapy across a platform, a digital platform.
Hmm.
That is 100% doable and should be done. And the positive of constant connectivity in that sense, because you have the capability of reaching somebody in a different part of the world when you are feeling down and your world and your life and your city is asleep. You're capable.
Hmm.
So I think that there are pros
And
and
then,
cons.
yeah. And also because when people near you or around you don't know, because all said and done, everybody feels a little ashamed about talking about the mental health issues. I don't know why it is there, but it is there. Like physical health, we are very open about talking, no? कि ये issue है
हाँ
इसको ठीक
पैर
करो.
टूट गया मेरा मैं
Men-
कभी यहाँ पे एड़ी में वो मोच आ गई
हाँ,
मगर मेंटल हेल्थ के
हाँ,
बारे में कुछ नहीं
हाँ,
कहना
हाँ, कोई बात नहीं करता. So उसमें बहुत there's lot of shame attached to it,
yeah there's a lot of shit
no?
100%
Hmm.
and that is why the anonymity of a digital platform helps.
Hmm.
You can do your
Hmm.
work, you can do your self work, you can
Hmm.
practice skills, you can do all of that, but at the end of the day it doesn't take away from from the therapy because you know what happens is people need each other. And so in a
Yeah.
therapy setting also, you want to feel
Hmm.
understood. The moment you feel understood, and the moment you feel like somebody's
mm,
understood me and now can guide me, you will
mm,
have that breakthrough. That breakthrough
mm,
doesn't happen with AI. Like you can do it on AI and
mm,
say, I feel like this, I feel like this, AI is responding, etc., etc. But you're not going to
mm,
feel it because it's not
mm,
a live person in front of you. You'll feel a little bit
mm.
better. But
Yeah,
it will not take
yeah.
away, it doesn't take away the need for in person or even
Mm.
across like a screen. That's also fine. But at least that person to person interaction has to also take place.
So that means a person begins with the online thing or a telephonic thing, but then sit across a person to do the therapy, to actually treat yourself,
But if you can't,
right?
telehealth is fine. Telehealth is fine. I have no
Mm,
problem with telehealth. In fact, I
mm,
know many people who do telehealth, and people do it with me as well. And I think that that's
mm,
okay because as long as they feel understood, right? But
mm, mm,
for me, as a therapist, on all the various things that I do, I need somatics,
mm,
which means that I
mm,
need to understand तो आपकी body में क्या हो रहा है. I need to
mm.
be able to see जब मैं बात कर रही हूँ, माने are you clenching your fist or not?
Yeah,
I need to
yeah.
see did you cross your legs or not because they give me information.
Uh,
The body speaks things that the mind may not.
true.
So I need
Mm,
I work best. I work
mm,
online, but I work best if you're sitting in my chair because now I am
mm,
in your energy space and we can work
mm,
together
mm.
and there's a wave of give and take. You know,
Yeah.
that's the spiritual angle of like of how do you receive
Mm,
beyond like
mm.
maybe the environment of just communication. There's so many more
Yeah,
facets that you miss out when you're not sitting in front of somebody.
yeah. Beyond the words.
I mean, imagine it's like having a relationship online versus having a relationship with somebody who's
Mm,
sitting with you. Oh,
mm,
it's never going to be the
mm,
same thing.
mm.
It is all a
So for a
relationship
person,
it's all a relationship of help and growth.
yeah. So tell me, if a person, like a normal person who doesn't know that he or she is having a mental health issue, or but those issues may be building up. So what are the initial signs, warning signs of mental distress,
I think
which
so.
which a person can recognize self by self, like I can understand about myself,
Yeah,
and also the signs that the family members should watch out for.
yeah. I think one of the first when mental distress can look like sadness.
Mm,
You know, mental distress can look like
okay.
somebody who's tearing up a lot and very obviously emotional,
Mm,
suffering emotionally. That is all fine.
mm,
But there's also like other people, who
mm,
have different types of things. Like they become withdrawn. They don't enjoy the activities that they used to enjoy. They don't want like if they played a sport, they stop going to play sport. They find it very difficult to do things. They need a lot of motivation to do something that they would do easily requires motivation. Like simple tasks become too much for them, right? That's all like causes like a lot of takes a lot of energy to do the things that would come easy to you. That's another sign. And then you have, like I told you, those quieter people who become more irritable. They're short tempered, impatient, reactive, easily frustrated. Small sort of inconveniences get triggered and they get like blown out of proportion and stuff like that. Those kind of things also can be signs for mental health disorders. Other signs are physical. So, when you go to a doctor, they'll ask you, and you go to a doctor and you'll say, oh, I'm feeling like this. They'll ask you, what about your sleep? What about your appetite? What about your concentration? What about your energy levels? What about your emotional regulation? Same thing. It's actually all mental health. That is all mental health.
okay.
If you're unable to sleep, it's a mental health issue.
Mm,
If you're unable to concentrate, it's a mental health issue. If your energy levels have changed, it's a mental health issue. If your emotional regulation is out of control, as in you're not able to control yourself, that's also a mental health issue. Now, you have to also remember there's obviously hormonal things that are going on, especially perimenopause, menopause women. There are hormonal things also going on. And that also is
mm,
also adds to the mental health burden or for a woman, right? But I mean, these are really the common things that people should kind of feel. If they see it happening time and time again, they should understand that something needs to be done. So, like in my app, one of the first things we do is mood checking because all you need to do is understand your mood in the morning, understand your mood in the evening, and you keep doing this for many days. You'll understand what is happening. It'll give you a complete accountability of what Is your mood like? What are the trends? How have you been moving? And then you get to understand what is causing it. But if you don't note, and like if you don't spend a microsecond mapping your mood, you're never going to know. You're going to be like going through the day in a not so positive mood,
Auto mode.
and you're not going to be able to be responsive. You're going to be reactive.
Mhm.
So it's very important to actually understand. I mean, if you're unable to, and by the way, sleep is so underrated, but it is the most effective way to heal. Sleep is very important. People don't take sleep seriously. I mean, that's the first thing they'll give away.
Mhm.
दान में दे देंगे. It's like, no, sleep is super important. Like, even if you're working out, by the way, like if you're trying to build muscle or you're trying to recover, if you don't get enough sleep, you can't build muscle. If you don't get enough sleep, you can't recover. If you don't get enough sleep, no way your stress levels will go down. Lots of different things, right?
People don't talk about sleep at all. In fact, I've seen like many people, they take pride in saying that I only sleep for 3 hours, 4 hours, kind of thing. Like I go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the night and wake up at maybe
Yeah,
7 o'clock.
it's horrible for
Mm,
you. It's terrible for you. It is
mm,
the first thing. You will have no energy reserves to be able to take care of yourself. I had a person once who called me up and said, "Can you do hypnotherapy for me so that I can only sleep 4 hours, be really refreshed when I wake up?" I'm like,
mhm.
I absolutely will not do that. उसके एग्जाम्स थे, पता नहीं क्या क्या करना था उसको, मैंने कहा बिल्कुल भी नहीं. I will not do that. In fact, you'll have more benefit if you read. This is a fact. If you read the answers to yourself, record that, go to sleep and put that recording on. Right? So while you're sleeping, subconscious mind we will keep that information in. Right? It's smart. You probably get better grades doing that than not sleeping.
How many hours a person should sleep?
I think this really depends on the age and also the energy levels they expend in the day. Anywhere from 7 to 8 for a norm for an adult is fine.
Minimum is 7.
I think so. Some people are okay at 6, but that also depends on the
Mhm.
energy levels. Like, what are they doing? Do they spend most of the day sitting? If they're spending most of the day sitting, I suppose it works for them. I definitely need 8. I feel very tired. Even in 7 doesn't work for me because I'm kind of energetic.
And we were talking about mental health issues. Is there any? There must be some difference in among the. Gender must be playing a role in mental health issue.
Not really.
What is the
Actually,
percentage
gender.
of women? Mhm.
Actually, you know that suicide amongst men is higher than suicide amongst women.
Really?
That men, uh, both might attempt it, but men are more successful at this, right? And also, men hide it better because society doesn't allow them to speak about this. They believe their entire upbringing is based on, you have to do A, B, C, D thing, and you have no space for emotional drama, as they call it, right? Like, no, men are just supposed to be positioned as those as men that are completely grounded and do not get disturbed emotionally and mentally. But that
In
isn't true.
control.
Yeah, that isn't true. The men and women both go through it. I don't think that, even when I look at the youth, like even now, I mean, people in schools, boys and girls are going through it because they all have body dysmorphia. They all see other kids their age with like good bodies and like build up this that, and the other. They go through body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is huge. Um, Food eating disorders is huge. Men and women. I mean, lately I've been seeing a lot of men like on Ozempic and this, that, and the other. The bodies are shrinking, but they're not emotionally happy. Like they're not like you have to do it holistically. Whatever it is that you're doing, you have to be holistically well, right? So I actually do not believe that it's different for men and different for women. I think both are impacted. I just think men talk about it less than women. Women can talk about it with their friends. Men don't even talk about it with their friends. I don't think a man is going to go to his friends and say, I've been like dealing with a lot of mental health issues. Unless he's a very evolved human
Hasn't
being.
this? But hasn't this thing changed? Aren't men coming out more now as compared to earlier? No.
I see in the US, in the workplace, you see people taking a leave of absence based on mental health.
Hmm.
And that's equal for men and
Okay.
women. because they believe and they talk a lot about burnout. It's something that the every company gives them a leave for mental health. They can take it, so they take it because it's not stigmatized here. But in India, it's highly stigmatized.
Yeah.
No, in India, it's highly
In
stigmatized.
इंडिया में तो वैसे ही हेल्थ हेल्थ बेसिस पे भी छुट्टी नहीं मिलती, मेंटल हेल्थ तो क्या ही मिलेगा.
It's a real problem. And you know that, like the body, the mind, the human experience, the experience of humans
Hmm.
is not in separate compartments. We don't experience like
Hmm.
physical health on Monday, mental health on Tuesday, social well-being on Wednesday. We
Hmm.
experience all of this together. So there is
Hmm.
nobody who is protected from it unless you do your practices. Well, that is why a lot of people turn to like spiritual practices like Shri or Shankar, and they turn to like Isha Foundation, and they turn to these
Hmm.
various places where they can understand what they're supposed to do and kind of at least do a meditation practice so they can balance their mind morning and night. So other people do puja morning and night. There are different practices. All these practices were meant to basically keep you centered. They're meant to keep
Hmm.
you centered. And again, there's a lot of guilt, by the way, that I do puja, I do this, that, and the other. I should not have these problems. That doesn't mean I don't love God enough. There's all these other
Hmm.
concepts also that come up, and it's like, wait a second.
Hmm.
Why are you giving so hard on yourself? Let's work towards it to
Hmm.
make you better, right? Instead of like
Hmm.
having all these preconceived notions and then judging yourself for
Yeah. So you work with the school children, like you begin with the primary classes, you said.
it. Yeah,
Are you
we work with
also,
everybody, but yeah, we
Hannah,
also work with
you,
children.
you work with the older children? Do you work with the working class also? Because there's a lot of, as you said also, there's a lot of workplace stress also.
Yeah,
So do you have
our
modules for them?
100%. Our app is actually a B2B app. So we do it in schools, we do
Okay.
it in workplaces,
Mm-hmm.
we do it in
Mm-hmm.
with all kinds of foundations so that they can send it forward as
Mm-hmm.
well. So yeah, ours is 100%. In fact, we the keynote of the founder, the keynote is
Mm-hmm.
that he wants to democratize well-being. So
Mm-hmm.
it's literally like uh, an app that is free for everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody who wants to use it can use it. But our market is the workplace because we
Mm-hmm.
see the idea is that we want to be able to help people, but to give it to somebody who basically becomes the node who can share it with a lot of other people. And then we actually create a lot of different types of engagement tools for that
Mm-hmm.
community. So, like for example, in the workplace, we'll basically onboard them, then we'll give them engagement kits like a monthly newsletter that goes out to say, hey, try this practice, do this, da, 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 this will help you like that. So we give them like the capability. Same thing with schools. You'll give them you have the for example, Schoology or something, you'll have the language, the learning system, the learning management system of a school. We put the content in the learning management system in the school. Like a smart board ho gaya, to aapke paas content wahan pe upload ho gaya. And then the teachers can
Mm-hmm.
run that content, etc. We do it like that because we don't expect like individuals to hear about it. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
no Tom, Dick, and Harry on the road is going to know about Roundglass living. But
Mm-hmm.
when we give it to communities like the schools and colleges and hospitals and things like that, then people hear, then people who are in those communities get it, and then they share it with their friends and family because we open it to friends and family. So that is how we build the network because we want people to champion well-being. Right? Otherwise, people don't use it. So if I've used it, I've had a good
Mm-hmm.
experience, I'm going to tell you, you're going to use it. If my
Mm-hmm.
boss is telling me, hey, you know what, like this is really a good app, we've taken it, and everybody must use it, I will be more motivated to use it. If my teacher
Mm-hmm.
is talking about it, and my coach is talking about it, and my parent is talking about it, I'm definitely going to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But my kids always tell me this. They always say
Mm-hmm.
that no matter what you're building for mental health for kids, it just has to be fun because you're competing with the same time of doing doom scrolling or like nonsense scrolling, right? So it's difficult, very difficult, because that is not possible for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the agency has to be given to the teacher or the parent to say, do this with your child.
Mm-hmm. So what about India? Like you're working with schools
India,
abroad
we're
in
working with a lot.
US. Huh.
India, though, we're working with
What
a lot.
about a lot of schools in India also?
India, we work with
Mm.
Podar Brio, no, not Podar Brio, Podar School, which is in Worli. We work with multiple schools. I don't
Mm.
know every school's name, but we work with multiple schools. We work with education, like in terms of like state education also. So the app is
Okay.
pretty integrated in India. It's in fact I have more clients in India than I do here,
Okay. And across all the states.
across all the states.
Okay. And are Indian school managements or say state governments, you said you work with state boards, open to uh, having,
One of
or
them
you
has
have
been
to
the
like
pilot.
work your way through? It's hard or
It's a very
easy?
good question, but I don't know who your audience is. uh, there's a lot of roadblocks, but we are free,
Okay.
right? And
Hmm.
free also
Hmm.
gives you two ways of looking at it. Be like, why is it free? Is it not good enough?
Ah,
Or the second
hmm.
aspect is, you know, it's free. Let's use it, but I didn't pay for it, so I don't have to work towards actually spreading it. So
Hmm.
so the idea is that if I'm giving you a free app, please share it and please use it. Because if you don't use it, I mean, it's like just having like a something in your room, but you're never using it. What's the point of that? It becomes like a tomb
Hmm.
on your phone, right?
Hmm.
So the whole idea is how do we actually make people use it also? In fact,
Hmm.
languages are coming up. For India, we've also understood that we need to make it not in English. So like we actually
Hmm.
do the company Roundglass does a lot of work in Punjab. So obviously Punjabi's become one of the first languages that we're going to be inputting in it. Hindi,
Hmm.
Punjabi, of course, both of them. And then when we localize it, we'll find much more adoption because we feel because we're free that a lot of people in villages also use our we have our app in villages in Punjab also. They use it,
Okay.
because for them it is a great access to understand, and they have
Hmm.
no other way of getting to this kind of content. They have no other way of empowering themselves or even understanding that they could. So it's actually, and it's very important. So we're actually now building, because we understand now who the audience is, we're also building now WhatsApp messages for them. To say, अच्छा आप कर रहे हो तो हम आपको support करेंगे. You know, आप काम करोगे तो हम और भी काम करेंगे आपके लिए. So
Are
that
you also working for more languages? Like India has like 25 or so vernacular
we're,
languages.
right now
Would
we're only
your app be, huh?
it's very easy to translate, but right now we're working on just the Hindi and Punjabi.
Hmm.
But because we're also working on
Okay.
international languages, like we have our app in Greece, we have our app in Europe, so Spanish, French, Greek,
Okay.
um, and of course some of the Indian language, Arabic. Doha, Qatar, they're very important for us. We have lots of clients there, so we have to there's so many, so there are priorities, man. We put it in a priority list and we start doing one at a time, to make sure that we can build it effectively.
And what are your expectations from the government, like the Indian government? What do you
I
want them
wish
to do
if I was
more?
to design it myself, I would
Hmm.
start with mental health in, as soon as you are pregnant, the hospital gives you a brochure for mental health
Okay.
yourself, because remember there's also like postpartum depression,
Hmm.
there's depression during pregnancy, but in India you're not allowed to be depressed, so you're not allowed
Hmm.
to be depressed at all. You have so many people around you, you don't know how to even talk about postpartum depression, but a
Hmm.
lot of women go through it. The stats are pretty high. I don't have the exact number in my head right now, but it's pretty high. Like it's around 40s. I have to check it, but it's very
Hmm.
high. So it's almost like completely stigmatized. So I would say if I was there, I would say, okay, I've started a whole drive on like folic acids. Why can't we connect this? So then everybody will have access to understanding about mental health, understanding their mental health, understanding child mental health. And then you go to schools and you have it in schools. So the school mental health system that is set up, and not just as like, oh, counselor se baat kar lena. I mean, I was doing some work in some 144 schools in Punjab, and when I was teaching the economically weaker section schools, I was teaching the teachers about mental health and like how do you talk to people with mental health illnesses, how do you approach them gently, how do you make it inclusive, etc. They said, हमें क्यों समझा रहे हो CWS worker को समझो. And I'm like, आपको,
Acha.
you are the one who's actively involved with the child.
Hmm.
Like we don't have the
Hmm.
time. We have 80 children in this class. We have 10 people on a bench. We need to finish our curriculum. We cannot do anything else. So the government
Hmm.
has to help, na? They have to change
Hmm.
that system. I can't break through a system unless it's changed at source. So that's why
Hmm.
schools
Hmm.
it has to become a priority in schools. When you are,
Hmm.
again, in hospitals, nobody understands that it's not only the patient. What about the caregivers? The caregivers'
Yeah.
financial stress and burden, like caregiving burden, just not being able to, it's very difficult to be the caregiver also.
Yeah.
But they have to be fine. It's a lot of pressure.
Mm.
So, like, hospitals need to disseminate this information. When you go to a doctor, they should check not only physical health symptoms, they should check mental health symptoms as well. Simple things, simple questions. Question the relationship, question the headaches, question the food, question what's happening. Make it a full, like, holistic understanding of that patient, right? Like, those are the kind of things that I think I would do. So, you start with the
Mm.
youngest pregnancy onwards. I mean, if I had my way, I would start with actually doing parenting courses for anybody who got pregnant because they create the most mental health challenges in their children, right? So I would start with teach them parenting skills, then move on to mental health, right? Because then you'll really be able to
Mm.
save society. Because I'm telling you, in Singapore school, one of the kids said, you're telling me all of this, but if I open my mouth, my mother's going to smack me. I can't do any of this. So there is fear,
Yeah.
violence, and all of this are still there, no?
Uh-huh.
So you can't
Uh-huh.
teach something in isolation without understanding what is the community like.
Mm.
It's very much
Mm.
still there.
True.
Physical abuse is very much still a
Mm.
part of like everybody's homes. What do you do? How
Mm.
do you how do you have psychological safety if there's no safety? You know,
Mm.
things like that.
Of, yeah, of all the mental health issues, which one tops the list? Like stress, depression, anxiety?
So currently, we're
Mm.
seeing a lot of stress being on top. Like
Mm.
a lot of people are coming with stress issues or issues of stress.
Mm.
That's been the
Mm.
number one. Anxiety is definitely number two. But if you talk about mental health disorders, there is a lot of people are coming up with symptoms of bipolar disorder. A lot of children with ADHD. You see a lot of like actual mental health. You see mental health issues coming up in a lot of places, but you also see that I have a different approach and understanding even to ADHD. I don't think children are supposed to or meant to sit like this ever since they're kids. They're supposed to jump around, move around, play around, right?
Mm.
I think that we're trying to like limit their
Mm.
physical energy, and then we say that they've got ADHD. I mean, imagine a school where you
Yeah.
could like actually run around, play this, that, exhaust yourself, and come and study, right? Gurukuls were like that. Gurukul wasn't like making
Mm.
you sit like a classroom, like silently and still. The connection
Yeah.
between the mind and body doesn't happen so fast. So when a child moves, they actually connect much better. But it is considered
Yeah.
ADHD, and they want to, calm the child down. So I have a
Mm.
different type of like understanding of that. And just for diagnosis of that, I would basically first do EEG and think of, and see whether there's something happening or not. I wouldn't just
Mm.
do the work. And I also feel like energy can be expended elsewhere. And a lot of ADHD can be fixed with food. You're going to give your child junk food, you're going to give your child sugar, you're going to give your child things like that. Though that's going to be the outcome, right?
Mm.
So I think that stress and anxiety basically really on top. You hear a lot about burnout and all of that, but I think stress and anxiety leads to burnout as well, right? So all of this anxiety at the workplace,
Mm.
etc., is leading to burnout.
So, also, like, are most of the cases that come to you for therapy? First is advocacy, then is therapy. So, are the cases resolved through therapy, or then you also have to move to the medicinal, like clinical things
So I'm not now we're
in
talking about
place?
what I used to do in when I had my clinic. I don't have my clinic anymore. I do a personal practice, but I don't do my clinic anymore. Um,
Mm.
for me, I've seen a lot of success in just therapy. The patients
Okay.
that needed medicine, I sent them to a psychiatrist, but that would be maybe like, I don't know, 1 in 20,
Oh, that's a good thing.
not too many.
That's a happy sign, but
But it is a happy sign, but it must be also because I'm not a psychiatrist. So why would a patient
hmm,
who needs medicine come to me? A person
hmm,
who wants to fix their issues or what they're feeling, like whether they're borderline personality disorder, whether they have schizophrenia, whether they have these kind of things, right? They may come to a
hmm,
therapist first because they don't know they have that. So when they come to me
hmm,
for that, if I can diagnose that they must be, that they need medication for certain things, then I send them to,
hmm,
to a psychiatrist. Because remember, I did have RCI registered
ah,
counselors,
okay.
so they are able to identify
Uh-huh.
this. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but during COVID, I opened a 700 volunteer helpline for COVID, because for
Uh-huh.
mental health and
Uh,
stuff. And In that, I had a Dr. Kersi Chawla. I don't know if you know him, but he was like the premier like psychiatrist. And I had like 5 RCI registered nurses, and I had 700 volunteers.
Mm,
And we were very clear: if somebody has had a mental health issue before, straight to the RCI counselor, not to
mm,
the volunteers. If somebody had
mm,
any kind of like suicidal ideation, straight up there, no volunteers. Volunteers are able to deal with
mm,
certain sort of mental health first aid, right? And that
mm,
first aid was really well taught. They understood the right questions. I mean, there was so much domestic violence also, if you remember, that we taught
yeah,
these
yeah.
people like various like um, what do you call that? Signals, like aapne khana bana diya. It meant that did you get are you under attack? Like things like that. So we actually
Mm,
like had created these signal languages for women so that they
mm,
could communicate because you're in the same house. छोटी सी घर है उस घर में माने
mm,
perpetrator गया आप भी हो. How do you talk?
mm,
So those kind of things that
mm,
we had understood and developed. Anyway, the point is that even there, we're very clear what needs should go to a psychiatrist. What needs a therapist
mm,
comes to a therapist. I will not take on a case that
mm,
I think that is needs medicine. So
mm,
medication is needed, and then you can come to us for
mm,
support, which means skill
mm,
development again, which I'm
mm.
giving them anyway. But if you have a mental health condition that is chemical, it needs medicine, and I'm not qualified for that. So मेरे पास तो आएंगे ही नहीं. एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज थी. एक डॉक्टर है
Mm,
who was very
mm,
aware. So he was
mm,
he is actually not was, but he is a
mm,
plastic surgeon, and he does reconstructive surgery, etc. And then he would every time he got a patient, he would first send the patient to me,
mm,
saying that does the patient have like does the patient really need this, or do they have body
mm,
dysmorphia, or are they projecting? Like he had one person who come to him that had said something to the impact of that he wants to change his face because he wants to look like Shah Rukh Khan. Now, obviously, that is not something that is his face. So he had to send him to me. So then I had to work with him, try to make him
mm,
feel comfortable in his own body, which took a long time. But these are
mm,
not things that are these are things that you can solve in therapy, right? Discontentment
mm.
with the self is something that you can solve in therapy. But if it's a chemical imbalance, like if it's bipolar disorder, cannot solve. If it's like any kind of disorder with chemical reactions, cannot be solved.
So you do get patients like referred by the plastic surgeons or other
I
doctors
used to,
to
yes.
come. Mm,
Even psychiatrists have referred patients to our clinic before.
mm,
Because for them, it is very important that they have like therapists who
mm,
can work with their patients because they only give the
mm.
medicine. They'll meet you for half an hour, give you a medicine, whereas we work with you for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, like we make sure that you're okay over multiple days.
So, what is that one advice that you would like to give to people in general about mental health?
I would say take it as seriously as your physical health. Take it as
Mm,
seriously as what you consider outside beauty, because that inner beauty and that inner well-being is the most important thing that will keep you young, engaged, and really, feeling good over a long period of time. So I think it's very important to understand how to take care of yourself.
okay. One mental health myth that you would like to bust.
I think mental health matters to everybody, and everybody should learn the preventive practices for mental health and not wait till they get like, a mental health issue or challenge.
Okay. A daily habit that has the biggest impact on well-being.
Consistent sleep.
Okay. And one book that changed your perspective on human behavior.
I loved The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. That was like one of my favorite books. I used to teach it also. So that's one of my favorite books for teaches you how to
So,
again work with yourself.
okay. So, between therapy, meditation, exercise, or sleep, you already answered that, right? The sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. And one piece of advice for someone who is feeling overwhelmed right now.
Breathe really long. Exhale really
Okay.
slowly. And don't do anything else.
Okay. So, with that, we come to an end of this conversation, Prakriti. And thank you so much for talking to me and enlightening me on various aspects. And I'm sure people who will hear this, are hearing this, will surely learn and they'll open about their own mental health issues and the issues of those around them. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for inviting me to this talk. Bye bye.